Marico is synonymous with the water. People come here for the river, they come here for the pristine nature environment that we've got here. This is one of the few untarnished rivers and water sources we've got in the country.
It's a wonderful thing to be able to stand next to the river and to drink from it, and not to worry about some heavy metal that's going to affect you.
Yes, we drink the water from the river, and we never get sick. We must tell the truth.
The river is a lifeline of a rather dry part of the country. The rain is about 300 to 400 millimeters per year. The expenses on the water has become so high that you can't farm anymore. So we switched over to a guest farm, and we survived through that.
All the guests from Johannesburg and Pretoria and even from Botswana, even from abroad, come to enjoy the river and the tranquility.
It is nice that it is relatively close to Gauteng. It's amazing that such a short distance outside of the city you can be in absolute pure, rough, raw nature.
We try to relax as much as possible, spend quality time with the kids, go on nice walks, do a bit of canoeing on the river, sometimes a bit of fishing.
You can have a look at 150-year-old stinkwood trees.
Beautiful.
That's part of this national heritage.
So it's a typical bushveld environment. So there's a lot of game farms here.
Lots and lots of indigenous birds. There's about 500 species here in Marico.
Great getaway, lovely place, great people, people are friendly.
I can quote Herman Charles Bosman, who made the Marico famous. There's no other place I know that it is so dense with atmosphere, so strangely and darkly impregnated with that stuff of life that bears the authentic stamp of South Africa.
Groot Marico is a place that has a number of very interesting characters. Many of us over here have been extremely successful in what we've done in the cities, and we've made a conscious decision to change that because we found that we were still empty. We don't see ourselves as owners of this land, we see ourselves as custodians to protect it.
I suppose because I'm the only long-term resident here, I'm the sort of manager of this Tibetan Buddhist-based centre, and we believe in looking after sentient beings and looking after the world, so environmental things are very, very important to us.
The water originates from the ice, which produces a constant flow of water, which lasted even through the worst droughts, which makes it a very rare treasure to have. They are the source of the Limpopo. If you look at the old maps which the foot truckers had of this area, they actually still call this river up to the eye of the Limpopo, not the Groot Marico. In that higher region is massive amounts of water, aquifers, which is kept by the dolomite stones and formations. And where you have a fissure, then that water will flow out as a fountain.
When we scuba dive up to a depth of 18 meters to where the actual water siphons through the loose sand, it's beautiful, it's pristine. The lilies that grows underwater, the fish that comes there, these are rare species.
There's so very few pure sites left that, it's just ludicrous to think that another mine is coming to mine for minerals.
Well, it's well documented that we sit atop one of the richest mineral deposits, if not the richest mineral deposit in the world, which is the Bushveld Igneous region. And it's just 60 kilometers east down the road is Rustenburg, which is the world's largest platinum producing area.
African Nickel had applied for prospecting rights in the area. They've already gained prospecting rights in the Costa area, and we believe right through to the eye of the river.
It was never mentioned in any of the proclamations that it will be in the Marico area. It was talked about Swartruggens and all these other places which were 30 kilometers or more away from the spot where they're drilling at the moment.
We received our first notification that they've applied for prospecting rights after the due date that they already closed their environmental management plan and they've submitted it to the department. But we know that they haven't consulted at all.
We haven't been consulted.
Have you been consulted?
No.
Have we been contacted? No.
This is for the first time about it. Yeah, we just now.
It was with great shock that I saw the article in the Belt.
So the fact that they are telling the Department of Mineral Resources that they have consulted and have met due process is a blatant lie.
In this they say that most of the Groot Marico area is grasslands. those department people who must make the decision, they look at this paper and they say, it looks good. But we know it's lies. They already, according to our knowledge, drilled more than 30 holes there at the eye of the Marico River.
So what they're going to do is they're going to create passages which has not been there before. So that could divert the path of the water underground, which then could bring it perhaps possibly in contact with the minerals that are not in contact with the water now. The nickel will be probably in a sulfide form. The moment sulfides come in contact with water, it becomes sulfuric acid.
The minerals and the elements that comes up with it will cause more severe impact than what we experience out in Johannesburg.
All you read about in the mines is increasing production. Increased production requires increased water. Anglo Platinum's own admission to me was that Rustenburg will be facing residential water restrictions by as soon as 2011.
So an aquifer exists because you have your dolomite, which is the water holding formation, but then you have dikes, which goes down underneath the dolomite and creates like a kind of a container to hold the water. If African nickel should roll through the dike, they literally pull the plug out of the bath holding in the water, and the ice could stop flowing.
This free-flowing Class A river feeds not only Northwest Province and Gauteng, but Botswana. We, in an agreement called the Twaza Agreement, supply Botswana with 7.1 million cubic meters of water per annum. It is landlocked and it is water stressed.
People are already struggling around here, so river water is cheaper for them. You can access it anytime. So if it's destroyed, then it's going to make people's lives more difficult.
Down the stream towards the Limpopo River, there are various communities there and community leaders. They are as concerned as we are about the quality of the water. They're mainly cattle farmers.
This farm is owned by 6 black people from the community of Scansrift, yes. It's their everyday life of working here on the wheat field, irrigating the wheat with the same water from the same river, from the Marico Eye.
And then it flows into the Marico Bushveld Dam, and then from there it's distributed along these canals to 2,700 hectares, which creates work employment for about 3,000 people. So it's about 15 to 20,000 people depending on this water for their livelihood.
There's hundreds of thousands going to be affected by this. It's just going to snowball.
People are going to suffer, animals are going to suffer with the...
The people can't go away from here because this is their place. Their roots are here. If the water's gone, they can't leave, they can't stay. What must they then do? The people will be destitute, they won't have food, they won't have work, and then all the other problems that goes together with that.
Their Swartruggen's application says that nickel mining is a very specialist type of mining. So it's not to say that they're going to hire people over here.
If you start killing off the game and these kind of things, you're losing valuable influx of capital from overseas, because you get a lot of overseas hunters also that's supporting this environment, which pays in dollars and in pounds.
They believe that they're going to create an economy. There's going to be trade. There's going to be an income being earned, money being spent. Most of that money will probably be spent on buying bottled water, since they're going to be contaminating our water in the river.
Nobody talks about nature anymore. It's only natural resources. Everything is a natural resource. In other words, everything can be sold. For me, the river is not a natural resource. And the landscape is not a natural resource. The landscape is and has always been, for human beings, an expression of their souls. Black people still go to the eye of the Marico to sacrifice and to pray.
The black community are the people who ride to make their rituals in the dams or next to the dams, or where there's like perennial water. It's very important to our church and traditional beliefs.
Akon Rinpoche came here this February and he walked us up to the top of this hill and did an amazing ceremony planting these flags with healing bumpers in the ground. And then eventually told us he was doing it to try and put back into the world what man is taking out. And then I think in May I first heard of the African nickel claim.
It was proposed as a local South African company with local interest.
The only link that we can find in the public domain is Sepaku Holdings, which apparently has a 26% shareholding, the BEE component of African nickel.
Sepaku had in fact sold their share in African nickel to a Chinese concern.
Registered in the Cayman Islands. Now please let's not forget that African nickel is registered in the British Virgin Islands.
The people who are happy are the stakeholders in these mining organisations because they take home the big bucks.
Anglo has supplied all the data for African nickel so it can go through its prospecting process. But Anglo America is highly public, highly visible. Its chairman is Sir John Parker of Anglo PLC, and Sir John Parker is described as the Clark Kent of industry and corporate world in the United Kingdom. And his daughter Fiona is an environmental scientist. Does he know that he's going to be indirectly or directly responsible for the sodomizing of a virgin river?
We live on the river. We drink this water every day. This is our concern. Not anything else but to have a right to clean water.
It's going to have a devastating long-term effect on everybody that comes after us. And we've got to stop it. If we don't do it, nobody else is going to take charge.